Hi there, and welcome to Treehouse. I'm Pasan, an iOS instructor here, and together we're going to learn how to code. In 2014, Apple introduced a brand new programming language for macOS, iOS, tvOS, and watchOS developers called Swift. When you're brand new to programming, it's confusing as to why there are so many programming languages, and why we need new ones to begin with. Until 2014, developers for Apple platforms used a language called Objective-C. Why did we need a new language, and what was wrong with Objective-C? Well, Objective-C was introduced a while ago. In fact, a long while ago. I wasn't even born then, and as you can imagine, the world of computing was vastly different. Objective-C was built to program on a very different set of computers than we use today. And in an effort to keep up with the times, many features were added onto the original language. This baggage, or legacy tooling, as developers like to call it, started to show its age, and plenty of people in the community called on Apple to significantly improve the language. Little did we know, however, that Apple had been secretly working on a brand new language that was more modern, more flexible, and easier for newcomers to pick up. When Apple introduced Swift, they talked about three considerations they made when designing the language. The language needed to be safer, it needed to be more modern, and it needed to be a lot more powerful. As we go through this course, and many more in the future, we'll talk about the different features that make these considerations true. Before we get started, let's talk about the structure of this course and essentially all the Swift courses you will take at Treehouse. First off, and most importantly, you don't need any prior programming experience. We're going to assume you know nothing about programming and explain everything along the way. It's probably also wise to tell you how to get the best out of this course and any other course at Treehouse. All courses consist of videos, one of which you're watching now. But each video has some additional resources. If you explore around the page, you'll find a section called Teacher's Notes, the one I just mentioned a few seconds ago, where you can find those courses. Treehouse isn't the only resource to learn Swift and app development, and there's lots of good material on the web, including the official Apple documentation, blog posts other students have written, and questions other people have asked in different forums. While our videos will teach you a lot about Swift, you will really get the most out of your education by reading all the extra materials provided and looking through questions people have asked. Pay special attention to the Apple documentation. These are guides written by the people who built Swift, so they contain the one true source of advice on how to use the language. Reading documentation is an extremely important part of being a developer, and we're going to get used to it right from the start. Speaking of questions, here at Treehouse, we have a wonderful community of students who help each other along. Along with the video, you'll see common questions that other students, like yourself, have asked regarding topics they didn't understand. If you find you need clarification on a particular topic, check out the questions area. If you can't find the question, you should absolutely ask it yourself. This will not only help you find an answer, but help students who learn this material in the future. If other students are stumped, we have a great set of moderators who can help you out, and I'm in there myself. Alright, enough about the course, let's talk about Swift development. The version of Swift we're going to be working with is Swift 3. With Swift 1, and during the early days of Swift 2, the only way to learn Swift was using a Mac. With Swift 3, however, we can run Swift code on both macOS and Linux natively. In addition, there are some neat cloud-based tools that you can use to run Swift in the browser, which means that regardless of the platform you're on, you can start learning the Swift language. For this course, and all the other Swift courses at Treehouse, I will be using a Mac with the latest version of the operating system. If you look in the Teacher's Notes section, I've included several references to resources that should get you up and running with Swift on Linux, as well as links to cloud tools that should let you follow along in the browser. Once we moved beyond the language and start learning iOS, tvOS, and watchOS development, then you will need a Mac. While you can use the language on Linux, for iOS development, you'll still need to use a Mac. We're a long ways from thinking about iOS development though, so don't get too overwhelmed. I just want to give you a heads up about the computing resources you'll need if you want to go beyond Swift. So I keep talking about Swift development. What is development, or coding, or programming in general? Programming is all about providing a set of instructions to your computer. This is both a simple and powerful concept. You're already familiar with giving instructions. If I asked you how to get to a certain place, you would tell me something like, walk down this street for 1 mile or 1.6 kilometers and then turn left. Walk 500 feet and then take a right. Keep walking straight until you see a building with a yellow sign, and so on. These step-by-step instructions are exactly what a computer program is, and really, at its basic level, that's all there is to programming. We think of computers as these super smart machines, but honestly, they're not that smart, and they just perform a series of instructions to carry out a particular task. We provide these instructions to a computer using a programming language, which is what you are here to learn. Swift is a programming language, and much like a real spoken language, it has its own set of building blocks and rules. In a spoken language, these building blocks are letters and resulting vocabulary. In a programming language, the building blocks are called types. In a spoken language, the rules with which we construct words and sentences is called grammar. Similarly, in a programming language, we also have a set of rules, and we call this syntax. Every programming language, of which Swift is just one, has its own syntax, and writing a program with Swift is much like constructing a story using sentences in a spoken language. We use a combination of the vocabulary, or types, along with the syntax, or grammar, to put things together. In this course, we're also going to learn programming concepts. These concepts won't just apply to Swift. There are common ideas that you will find in many different programming languages, such as variables, collections, loops, and much more. In other words, what you're going to learn here can be applied to many other programming languages, like Java, JavaScript, Ruby, or Python. In addition to understanding how to program, it's also important as a programmer to be able to talk like one. So pay attention to the important vocabulary that we are going to learn. These are programming terms that come up often as you read, talk, and learn about Swift and programming in general. It's important to know and be familiar with these terms because they help you understand other learning material, and more importantly, you can express yourself clearly when asking questions. You already know 2 new terms, types and syntax. Don't worry if you've forgotten, we'll cover these again as we go on. Lastly, we will learn important programming techniques. These are best practices or proven ways to put programs together so they work better. And of course, we will do a lot of programming, along with the videos as you learn, in code challenges that you will find throughout the course, and hopefully on your own. Practicing on your own is very important and one of the surest ways to solidify your knowledge. This course is designed to take you through the basics of Swift and get you comfortable with syntax and programming concepts. Towards the end of this course, you won't have mastered the language, but it will be one building block that will prepare you for the next course to take your knowledge further. All right, let's get started.